So good afternoon. I would like to tell you a story about leadership transformation. And if I can, I would like to dedicate it to my wife, Barbara, who I love a million times around the world, because she played a big role in the story I'm about to tell you. The story it has three parts. It's about a marble. It's about a standard practice with a simple leather journal. And it's about three significant leadership lessons that have transformed how I look at helping people fulfill their ambitions and deliver purpose-filled, driven lives. And to give you the context before I could go into it, I just have to set the stage for you of what I've seen over the last 30 years of what's in the heads of leaders and what we have to hold on to. Information is doubling every 13 months. There's 1.5 billion people online, going to 5 billion by 2020. The Internet of Things, also called the digital industrial, also referred to as Internet 4.0, whatever you want to call it. There's 5 billion pieces of equipment hooked up to the Internet now. It's going to be 50 billion by the year 2025. McKinsey thinks that's going to be an $11 trillion market out there that really doesn't exist today. It's a great place to play in that particular industry. Then on a leadership point of view, the Edmondson study shows that only 37% of CEOs are credible. Harvard Business Review just published a study that only 6% of the truth gets to the top of the organization. So that other 94% of the hidden lie factory is a mystery to me. Then you have 10,000 baby boomers retiring every single day for the next 17 years. So that's anyone in the 1965 to the 20-year range on that. And then on top of that, by the year 2020, 50% of the workforce is going to be between the age 20 and 40. So that's what's in the heads of leaders that I've been working with for the last 6 years, being responsible for all of the customer leadership education for a big company. Then, sometimes what I've learned, it is the smallest thing that has the biggest impact in your life. And for me, that smallest thing was about the size of this marble. And it was New Year's Eve, 2016. I was toasting my wife and my 3 children to another great year of learning and loving and family bonding. And in exactly 7 days from that, the right side of my face was completely paralyzed. And a very aggressive tumor that started the size of this marble embedded itself right on the side of the facial nerve and basically paralyzed the right side. I had a right eye that would not blink. I had a right nostril that would not flare. I had a right smile sort of locked into a permanent frown, and I was scared to death. And it really resonated me when I heard Joe's story earlier, because I followed that same particular path. So what does one do? You get really good doctors, you move fast, you leverage your network, which is your village, you try to keep a positive attitude, and then you pray like a son of a gun. And while this whole thing was happening, I had 2 other major milestones in my life. I achieved my 30th wedding anniversary to my college sweetheart, and I achieved 30 years with GE in a leadership development role. So big things happened to me in the midst of a big thing, which started really, really small. So here's the transformation piece that I'd like to share with all of you in this room. I think I had maybe about a 2-minute pity party that my wife let me have. And she said, I want you to really take this opportunity and learn from it. And I want you to teach others from it. And you have a lot of people standing behind you. So one of the standard practices that I've been doing, and I brought it in here to show it to you, is I ended up having to have 33 radiation treatments over a 9-week period, and basically just blasting the tumor and all the extensions that were going into the brain. They wanted to make sure they got all of it. So I decided as a learning leader, I was going to document each and every day of the radiation. and ask myself, what am I grateful for today? What am I learning? How am I doing? How are things occurring? And I could tell you to the exact day when everything happened, from losing my taste buds from the radiation and not tasting things anymore, which is horrible, to when all my hair came out, and to the brightness of red that I had from the intense 33 radiation treatments. But it was recording it every day that it was done, I took the opportunity to relook at my notes. And I want to share with you 3 significant learnings that I learned from going through this and thinking about it and recording about it that now have made me so much better of a leader today and a developer of leaders than I ever was in the past by not going through this. For all of my notes, every single day I would take the most relevant learning and I would code it to, was it head, how I was thinking? Was it hand, what I was doing? Or was it heart, how I was feeling or how I was inspiring others? And I want to share with you some of the learnings as those 3 started this whole situation of learning for me. On the hand side, I learned that what we all have in common in this room, we all have the same 1,440 minutes every day. And it dawned on me, why do some leaders get so much more done, have such an incredible impact in their 1,440 minutes and others don't? And as I looked at all my notes and all my observations, it really came down to me, the leaders that get the greatest results every day have great trust. They have great say-do ratios. When they say they're going to do something, they go and do it. The second part on the heart, I really looked at another lens of leadership and determined heart is really how you inspire others. And I was looking at all the leaders that I work with, and I went back to the Latin derivative of the word inspire, or inspiration, which is inspira, which means to breathe life into. And I started looking at all the leaders that I work with. When you're working with your teams, do you breathe life into them or do you suck the air out of them? And for me, it was a ratio of do I inflate or deflate? And then I started getting hooked a little bit on the ratios. And then I saw another one, which was a defining moment for me. I'm like, all these leaders I'm working with that are out of whack, what ratio are they out of whack with? And the ratio that was really problematic, they focused more on profits and process than people and purpose. The people purpose seemed to be the back seat. And all I kept thinking about is they are not going to last long because I think we all know this in this room, your people are always the most important assets in any organization. So when I was looking at the journals and reflecting, it finally dawned on me that the power behind it is this common phrase I'm going to share with you. Deliberate reflection generates deeper inspection for more purpose-driven direction. And I looked at leaders that did those 3 things and I found out something very interesting. They had great results. They had low turnover rates. Their employee satisfaction scores off the charts. And it was just by doing some of these simple things. The third H on head, I want to relate to a Mark Twain quote, 2 of them defining moments for me throughout the 33 radiation treatments. The first quote is about interpretations. All interpretations are valuable, but not all interpretations are equally as powerful. And what I mean by that, there's a Mark Twain quote that says, the difference between the right word and the difference between almost the right word is the difference between lightning and lightning bug. So I took that nomenclature headset and I said, what's the biggest buzzword I'm seeing in business right now? So I'm flipping through Business Week, Fortune, Fast Company, Harvard Business Review, The Economist, and I keep seeing this word VUCA. So can I just see raise of hands, who's heard of this word VUCA? Okay, a little bit about a third of the audience. It's an Army coined term, which basically means as a leader, I'm leading an environment that's volatile, that's uncertain, that's complex, and it's ambiguous. And to me, it's really a left brain kind of perspective because you really need your intellect as a leader to figure out what are the right strategies and what are the right actions one needs to do to move a company successfully through a VUCA environment. But then I had a great gift to share with you from going through this medical journey. I saw a whole different definition of the acronym VUCA. When you are a patient and you're laying on a radiation table and you get a lot of time to think about seeing your whole life, the VUCA that I saw also had VUCA, but here's what it meant for me. The V was you are vulnerable. The U is you're unselfish. The C is you're caring. And then the A is you're authentic. And it was the second big aha that I had in my experiences in leadership development, that the best leaders that I've seen across GE and across all the hundreds of customers I worked with over a 6 or 7 year period, the best leaders had a balanced viewpoint between the left brain VUCA and the right brain VUCA. And then when it really came back to me, when I got back to work, one of the first things I did, I took my team to Africa. We visited 15 different countries to look at how we can help different customers from their leadership capabilities. And I was sharing this VUCA story with one of the executives at a African airline. And he started laughing and he said, Bob, there's yet another interpretation of VUCA that will be nice to add to your story. And I said, well, what is that? And he said, well, there's a Zimbabwe word, Zulu origin, South Africa, called VUCA, but it's not spelled V-U-C-A. It's called V-U-K-A, and it basically means wake up. So what I learned is in leadership, very effective leadership, you cannot default to the one or the other to be successful long term. It is the harmonious and symbiotic blend between both of them that you have to do, and the wake up is just a soft reminder for all of us. If you're doing one versus the other, just wake up a little bit and realize both are needed to be a great leader. The last lesson then comes down to that final quote from Mark Twain. And this happened to me. It was the very last radiation treatment. And I will tell you, it's very, very difficult for the last one. Again, you've lost all your hair, fluorescent bright red on the whole side of my face. But the joy is on the very last treatment, you get to ring a large bell that's in the waiting room as your victory lap that you are now done with treatment and you're going to go to the next phase of healing. And for some reason, the technician came and she got me and she said, it's just going to be a few more minutes. We're just trying to recalibrate a couple more adjustments on the machine for your last treatment. So while I was sitting in the waiting room, and to this day, I still don't know what magazine it was, I just happened to open up a magazine and there is Mark Twain with another quote. And this quote was, the two most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you figure out why. And I really started to think about the why, substitute it with words such as my purpose, my passion, my ambition. Van Morrison, the singer, calls it fire in the belly. Bruce Springsteen's new book, Born to Run, calls it What's Your Sword? Robin Williams in the Dead Poet Society calls it What's Your Verse? And then Carl so beautifully stated yesterday of what your mom shared with you, don't lose your thing. Just beautiful. So it was yet my last sort of wake-up call on all of this, that my job as a leader is to help the people I work with find their why, find their purpose. And you know what happens? When you find your why, it is no longer work. What you do is a labor of love, and you are so much more effective. And what I keep trying to share with so many executives is that when you have a whole organization where the majority of your employees have found their why, well, there's a name for that, everyone. That's called a purpose-driven organization. And in my opinion, when you have that, you do not have competition. People cannot compete against you when people are giving you their heartfelt, purpose-driven efforts into everything they do. So when I look at the journey that I've been on, and I look at that small little marble, I come back and I learned so much about codifying things to the head, to the heart, to the hand. I saw a whole new perspective of taking a very popular business word called VUCA and turning it into a soft skill competitive advantage for leaders. And then I truly learned the importance of how critical it is as a leader to help people find their why. So when you look at something like the size of this marble, I do want to validate with you, with personal experience, yes, sometimes something so small can have such a big impact. Thank you.